Let's start with the introduction of two terms, settler colonialism and imperialism, and give their definitions. Settler colonialism is a distinct form of colonialism that involves transferring the dominating country's population to a new territory. In this case, settlers maintained political loyalty from their country and expanded their economy throughout foreign nations. On the other hand, imperialism is the practice, theory, or attitude of maintaining or extending power over foreign nations, particularly through employing not only political and military, but also economical and cultural power. Imperialism focuses on establishing or maintaining hegemony and a more or less formal empire. Now let's give y'all a little bit of the introduction into the formation of the U.S. empire. As Europeans moved beyond the exploration of America, they dedicated their attention to colonizing this land, bringing changes to many aspects of the land and its people, such as hunting, trading, and taking personal properties. Natives were also imposed into practices that consisted of enslavement, changing of their spiritual rituals, and switching to Christianity, and most of the time entire tribes were exterminated if they did not want to change their faithfulness. Europeans changed every aspect of the natives' lands and made sure that their rules were widely practiced. It is important to understand the hegemony that shaped the natives' land and how white Europeans have applied their practice to the indigenous to take control over their lands, and how Europeans imposed their rules. They want to maintain a close relationship with their country of origin and make sure that they have control overseas by creating colonies in the new land. And this is the beginning of a sad and bloody story.
The history of colonialism and imperialism. In the late 15th century, a wave of exploration and colonization swept across the Atlantic, shaping the destiny of the Americas. European powers like Spain, Portugal, France, and England embarked on voyages, establishing settlements that would leave an indelible mark on the course of history. These colonists, driven by the thirst for resources and empire, imposed their presence on the indigenous peoples, claiming the land as their own. This marked the beginning of a process that would disrupt societies and extract precious resources, fueling Europe's economic ascent at the expense of native civilizations. As European colonial powers expanded, vast empires emerged, with Spain dominating much of Central and South America. The competition among these powers for control led to conflicts shaping the destinies of nations. The 7 Years' War, a pivotal conflict between Britain and France, redefined borders in North America. The Treaty of Paris in 1763 redistributed lands, setting the stage for the birth of the United States. The American Revolution, fueled by the desire for self-governance, ultimately led to the birth of the United States. Yet, even in independence, the shadow of colonization persisted. The pursuit of manifest destiny drove the U.S. to expand further, annexing territories and becoming an imperial power. The forced removal of indigenous peoples, the institution of slavery, and discriminatory practices left a deep scar on the nation's conscience. European settler colonialism profoundly impacted the cultures of the Americas, suppressing indigenous languages, religions, and traditions. Today, the echoes of the past persist in ongoing issues like land rights, racial disparities, and environmental exploitation. The devastating impact of settler colonialism and imperialism on society. In the archives of history, the concepts of settler colonialism and imperialism stand as stark reminders of the power dynamics that shaped societies, cultures, and entire communities. In the colonial era and beyond, Western powers justified their domination through a web of ideologies, paving the way for a legacy that continues to impact us today. The justification for colonialism lay in the portrayal of Eastern societies as needing help, control, or even civilization. This narrative reinforced the belief of Western powers as intellectually, culturally, and morally superior, deepening the power dynamics that enabled their dominance over Eastern lands and peoples. Colonialism meant complete physical control, stripping native communities of their resources, autonomy, and cultural heritage. Meanwhile, imperialism translated into the literal acquisition of territory, leading to involuntary economic and political domination of other regions. The consequences were devastating. The arrival of Columbus marked the beginning of a period that saw the decimation of 98% of the indigenous populace. What was once a thriving population of 12 to 15 million was reduced to a mere 250,000 by 1890. History books, however, often painted a distorted picture, glorifying figures like Columbus as heroes who quote-unquote discovered America. The repercussions of settler colonialism and imperialism reverberate through time, leaving a lasting impact felt even today. The scars of the past continue to shape social, economic, and cultural landscapes, reminding us of the importance of understanding this complex legacy. As we reflect on history, let us not forget the lessons it teaches us about power, prejudice, and the enduring struggle for equality and justice. The journey to America and its impact on the original Native Americans. In the chronicles of history, there are moments that serve as harbingers of deeper societal shifts. The words of Felix S. Cohen echo through time, likening the treatment of indigenous peoples to the miner's canary, alerting us to the poisoned air of our democratic ideals. The story of America, often distorted and idealized, is one of conquest, suffering, and the loss of innocence. Christopher Columbus, celebrated for discovering a land already inhabited, symbolizes the distorted narratives that have shaped our understanding. His arrival marked the beginning of an era where the pursuit of God, glory, and gold led to atrocities beyond imagination. Columbus, armed with ships, men, and a supposed divine mandate, brought a message of enslavement and displacement to the indigenous peoples. The transatlantic slave trade further darkened this chapter as millions were forcibly taken from Africa to the Americas. The Middle Passage, a journey of unimaginable horror, saw lives reduced to commodities. Shackled and stripped of humanity, they endured diseases, abuse, and death. Women, violated and brutalized, found strength in unity, even amidst their suffering. The land stained with blood became the backdrop for imperialism. The pursuit of power led to colonialism, a system of control and exploitation, and imperialism, the ownership of nations. The expansion of the United States was marred by policies of extermination, epitomized by the Sand Creek Massacre in 1864. Here, the cries of hundreds of innocent lives silenced in an act of unthinkable brutality. Today, we are faced with the echoes of these injustices. The struggles of indigenous peoples continue, echoing the same cries for recognition, justice, and respect for their sovereignty. As we confront the present-day challenges of racial inequality, social injustice, and environmental degradation, let these historical lessons serve as a stark reminder. We must acknowledge the sins of the past to build a future where the miner's canary can breathe freely once again.